Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time being here, you are welcome. If you have been a returning viewer, thank you guys for all of your support. If you are just coming here for the very first time, please consider joining this beautiful family. Turn on your post notifications to get notifications like this once I upload a new video. Today's video, I'm going to be taking you guys on how to make a straight skirt or a pencil skirt with a vent at the back. We all know that our pencil skirt normally comes with a slit right at the back, but this one is not going to be a slit. We are going to be making a vent, pleated vent right at the back. So I have my fabric on fold right here. I folded my fabric into two, and to fold you're going to need your biggest part of your body measurement. So my biggest body measurement right here for the skirt is my hip measurements divided by 4. So my hip measurement is 44 and I added extra 5 inches. Now we are going to go ahead and start by marking out a starting line, which is going to be the waistline. Now if you are making this into a skirt, you're going to have to minus 1.5 inches for the band before you input your hip. Okay, but now I'm making this into a gown. I'm going to be joining this into a gown. That's why I'm going to be removing just half an inch for joining to the upper bodice. That is the half scale. Okay, so now I've trimmed off the edges. Please endeavor to trim off that edge before you start making any of your markings. Okay, now from this line that I've created, which is the waistline, I'm going to take my tape down to the length, and the length of this skirt is going to be 43 inches. Okay, remember that the length of our Ankara is usually 45 inches. Okay, but the length of this particular client is 43 inches. Okay, and then we are going to be needing 1 inch for hemming allowance. Hemming allowance, I mean, is turning the down part of the skirt. Okay, now from this particular line again, which is the waistline, I'm going to take my tape vertically down to 9 inches, which is my hip point, and then 20 inches is my knee length. Okay, so now I also have the length of my skirts. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark these lines across using my straight ruler. Okay, and the 1 inch remaining there is going to be the turning allowance. Now from the folded part of my skirt, first measurement I'm going to input now is my waist circumference divided by 4. So my waist is 38 inches divided by 4. I have 9.5 inches plus 1 inch for that, and then 2 inches for my sewing allowance. Now I will simply go down to the hip. My hip is 44 inches. Okay, but because I want to add butt allowance to the back, I'm going to be using 43 inches. Therefore I'll be taking the other 1 inch to the back, and remember that this is the front. So 43 inches divided by 4, you mark it down plus your 2 inches sewing allowance. Now I'm not saying that your hip must be 43 inches. Whatever it is your hip is, okay, divide it by 4. All right, and then add your stitching allowance. Now to the knee length, I'm going to insert my knee, okay, circumference divided by 4. So whatever it is you have on your hip, that is, my hip is 44 inches, right? I'm going to minus 6 inches before then dividing by 4, or you can simply go ahead and remove 1.5 inches from your hip divided by 4. I hope you guys are actually understanding what I am saying. and then to the hem, whatever it is you have right on your knee, because it's a pencil skirt, you're going to have to take it down to the hem and mark. And right now I'm trying to connect all my lines. Okay, so now that I'm done with this, I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. And you guys remember that this is just the front, we have not gone to the back. The back is actually our main focus for today's tutorial. Okay, so I'm just trying to show you your steps in cutting out a pencil skirt with a vent. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in my back, the fabric I'm going to be using to cut out the back, and you can see that the fabric is way bigger than the front. Okay, and we have a reason for that. So let me trim off the upper part and then the down part. Okay, this particular part of the fabric, you're not going to be needing it when cutting out any of your dresses, so make sure to remove all those. Okay, so you can see I've folded my fabric into two as well, and this fabric, what I did right here is from the folded part, I'm going to measure in 10 inches, and that would be for my pleating at the back, that is for the vents. So I'm going to take it down right from the waist down to the length of my skirt, and I'm going to connect my lines. Okay, so now that I have this my vent allowance, I'm going to now bring in my fronts and then place it right after the 10 inches mark. Okay, so you can see, and you're going to make sure that the length of the front and the back is the same. So if they are not the same, go ahead and trim out the excess, and you're going to have to use your pin to hold it in place so that it won't have any room to shift when you are drafting out the back. Okay, so I've pinned my front into the back. So next I'm going to use my ruler and then mark out all my lines. Okay, so I'm going to, you can see I'm marking out the waist, I've marked out the hip, and then down to the knee. So I've marked all my lines. Okay, so that I won't get myself confused when I'm drafting out the back. Okay, now coming to the hip, remember that we removed one from the front. Okay, now we are going to replace it to the back just like I told you before, but now because we folded our fabric into two, the back is going to be two, right? So what we are going to do is to, from the center front, I'm going to take my take backwards half inch. Half inch is because it's two, so when you open it, it's going to be 1 inch. Okay, and then after that 1 inch, you're going to mark out 1.5 inches for your zipper allowance. Okay, and then add the same 1.5 inches on the waist and then to the knee, and you're going to have to connect your lines properly well. Okay, I hope you guys are actually seeing. Sorry if you are not seeing my chalk, if it's not visible enough. You know that this material is very colorful, so I'm sorry, pardon me, but just glue your eye to the screen and you're going to understand whatever it is I am drafting out and explaining right now. So now that I am done, I'm going to go ahead and cut it. Okay, and you guys remember that for the back, I just stop my markings right on the knee line. Okay, I didn't extend it. That is for the zip, I didn't extend anything. So now to cut it out, I'm going to cut right from the zip, but before that we are going to have to insert our that. Okay, So my dart, I'm going to use my nipple to nipple measurements, and starting from the center front, I'm going to take in 4.5 inches because I added half an inch for allowance. Okay, and then the length of the dart is going to be 5 inches for the front, and then going to the back, I'm going to use 6 inches. Okay, and you can see that I also marked out half an inch. I also take in half an inch for the dart. Okay, on both sides. So right now I have gone over to the back and I am about to mark out my back dart. Okay, and like I said, the length is going to be 6 inches and that same width, which is 4.5 inches, and now I'm taking in half an inch from both sides of my nipple to nipple points, and then I'll connect my dart legs. Okay, so we are done marking out our darts. Next step is for me to go ahead and cut this out. So to cut out, I'm not going to cut through to the hem. Okay, just take a look at what I am doing. I'm going to stop my cutting right on the knee line. Okay, and you can see I've cut it out and I'm going to do away with that piece. Okay, so you guys, this is what we have. This is our front and our back. Okay, so next step is for us to cut out our lining, and I've gone ahead to cut my lining, also marked out my dart on my lining. And you guys, my lining is 1 inch shorter than the actual fabric. This is because for us to achieve neat finishing right at the hem, you have to remove 1 inch from the lining. Okay, so that your fabric will go inside a little after you turn the hem. I hope you guys understand. Okay, if you're not a beginner, you'll be able to understand what I am trying to explain, but if you are a beginner, don't worry, by the time I want to sew this, you're going to get it. So this is also the back. You can see I also removed 1 inch from the lining. Okay, so we are going to move ahead to sew our lining into our actual piece. So this is my back piece. I'm going to bring in the lining to show you what to do. Now this is my lining. I'm going to place the right part of my lining facing the right part of my actual fabric, and first of all I'm going to sew using half an inch, and this is the down part. You're going to sew the down part first. Okay, and then after you sew it using half an inch, you top stitch and then you turn it. So this is what it should look like after you do that. Okay, and then next you're going to sew the upper part, which is this particular point I am right now that have like a square is the vent allowance. Okay, so you're going to just sew like square, just like I'm showing you right now. You're going to sew it all around. Okay, so I'm going to head over to my machine and sew it, and when you're about to sew, make sure to bring it so that the actual fabric and the lining stays equal. Okay, so I'm done sewing these. You can see what I have. What I am going to do next is to go ahead and notch. Okay, so you're going to have to notch the sides, and then you bring it out from this particular upper part which is open. All right, so I'm going to place my notches right now so that you see. So you're just going to have to notch the sides so that when you iron this, it could lay flat. Okay, so I've notched it and I'm going to turn it out from the upper part of my skirt, which is the waist part. And when I turn this out, you're going to see what this looks like. So I've turned it out. I am just trying to bring out the excess that might remain inside. So I'm just going to go ahead and give this a good press using my steam iron. Okay, endeavor to bring out your linings properly well. Okay, so I'm done ironing this, and right here I have my boots front and back. So we are going to also sew in your darts. Can you see? So look at what I just explained. This is what the hem looks like. You can see you can see what we have, and then this is our back, and this is actually our main focus for today. So this is where you should glue your eye properly to the screen so that you understand everything I'm going to explain from this moment. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is to fold my back piece into two again, and after I fold it into two, what I'm going to do is to go ahead and mark out my zipper allowance. Okay, and to do that, I'm going to start from the side of my skirts. So remember, I folded into two, and I'm going to first of all draw my half an inch line that I'm going to use to join to the upper part. Okay, after I mark out this line from the waist, I'm going to mark my hip line, and then also mark out my knee line. So I'm going to use my ruler to connect it. Now I'm going to start my measurements from the side. I'm going to mark out 9.5 inches, and then also mark out 1.5 inches for my sewing allowance. I'll also do the same to the hip. On the hip, I'll mark out 11.75 inches, and also mark out 1.5 inches for my sewing allowance, and the remaining is going to be the zipper allowance. Now going back to the knee, I'm going to mark out 9 inches, and then mark out also 1.5 inches, and the remaining is my zipper allowance. Now you guys, if you notice, I reduced all my sewing allowance. This is because I've used half an inch to join the sides. Okay, so that's why we have 1.5 inches left. All right, so I've connected my zipper allowance. So what is left of me there now is 1.5 inches. Okay, now what you're going to do is to get your line marked out to the down. Okay, I'm going to first remove my 10 inches for my vent allowance. It's not like I can't draw this line down to the hem. Okay, but I want to make sure that I have my 10 inches removed first, and I want to make sure that I get it in a straight line. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and connect this line, and that is going to be my pleating allowance. Now from this line, you can see I'm going to mark out 1.5 inches down to the hem. Okay, so that is to show you that we are actually in line with what we are doing. Okay, so I'm going to also go ahead and connect these lines together. Okay, now on this line, I'm going to move over to my sewing machine and sew from my knee down to the hem using my loosed stitch, because I'm still going to loosen up this line. And remember, this is the middle of my skirt. Now from the knee up to the hip, I'm going to sew using a tight stitch, and then from the hip up to the waist, I'm going to sew using a loosed stitch, because that is where my zipper is going to be. Okay, so I hope you guys understand what I actually explained. Now for my pleats, I'm going to go ahead and measure what I have right from the middle of my skirt. So guys, what we have right there is 11.5 inches. So we are going to go ahead and divide it into 2, and we are going to have 5.75. so this 5.75 is the middle, and we are going to mark it all the way to the hem. Okay, after marking it, go ahead and use your straight ruler and mark it into a straight line. Now we are going to also divide each of these parts into 2 again, and after dividing, what we have is going to be 2.85 inches. So we have succeeded in dividing this particular vent allowance into 4 equal parts. Okay, so if you want, you can divide into 3. It depends on what you want. Some also divide into 5. So but for this particular tutorial, I divided mine into 4 equal parts. Okay, and you're going to have to move over to your sewing machine and stitch all this line using a loose stitch. Okay, so and you're going to have to go ahead and iron and have your middle. So you can see I just showed you the middle of my skirt. I'm done stitching each of these lines, and you can see I have space in between each of it. So what I'm going to do, you're going to have to open up this skirt such that the middle is going to be in the center. So now this middle, you're going to have to, each of this line that you stitched using a loose stitch, you're going to ensure that each of the line is touching with the middle of your skirts. I hope you guys understand, and you're going to do this on the knee line. Okay, and also repeat the same thing right at the hem. Okay, just pleats to make it easier for you to be able to iron this down. Okay, might not show you what I did right here because I wasn't having a helping hand, but that is how to do it. Okay, just ensure that you have someone with you there. If you are pleating the upper parts, the person should help you to hold the down part in place as well. And you guys, this is what yours should look like, and you're going to have to stitch it down using 1/2 inch, but that will be after you iron. So you guys, you can see after ironing it, this is the front, and I will turn it over. This is the back. I've also stitched with 1/2 inch, and next we are going to have to go ahead and loosen up the stitches. Okay, so after loosening the stitches, of course it's not going to be hard. That's why you made use of a loosed stitch. You're going to have to go ahead and join your front and your back together, just the normal way we sew our skirt. Okay, so you guys, you can see this is our pleat right at the back, sitting beautiful. And you guys, you can see this is exactly how to create your vents on your skirt. Okay, so you guys, I believe this video was helpful. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. Share this tutorial to get more people to see it. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, turn on your post notifications. Guys, I will see you in my next one. Bye.